For the first time in quite a long time, I'm actually working on a project that I'm planning on releasing to the App Store. This is an idea that I've had for quite a long time. It's not like a huge deal, it's definitely not going to get millions of users or anything like that. It's just I saw a problem and there's no solution currently for this problem, and I know that I can build an app for it, and it can be a good, useful one. So I think now is finally the time that I'm gonna sit down and build this thing. And that's what I've been working on for the last, I don't know, about a week and a half. So in this video, I'm gonna show you what I'm building, how I'm building it, basically everything about it. So where I live in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, the west coast of Canada, there is only one single, I guess you would say, business that provides all of the power to everybody in the province. So one business controls the entire power grid basically. And if you go buy a house, if you rent a place, it doesn't matter what you're doing. No matter what, you have to sign up with this company to pay for power wherever you live, because they essentially have a monopoly, but it's not a monopoly in a bad way. Like, it's a very fair, very good company. Nobody doesn't like this company. It's called BC Hydro, by the way. It's just that there's only one of them. So whenever there's a power outage in the province where I live, since there's only one company, all of the outages get posted to their website. And the problem that I'm looking to solve is they don't have an app, and the website isn't necessarily, well, the website's pretty good actually, but it could be better if you had a mobile app. Because if you ever, if you get a power outage, obviously the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up your phone, you're going to go to the BC Hydro website, you're going to see where the outages are, and maybe look at a map, and it actually shows you kind of where the power outages are. So they don't have an app or anything, like I said. They just publish the data to their website, but they do have an RSS feed that publishes some data. So every 15 minutes they publish updates pertaining to all of the current outages in the province. So it gives like a little bit of information about it, the area, what the status of it is, when the power went out, and I think generally when they think the power will come back on. So actually, I'll just show it to you. So here's the BC Hydro website. I went to power outages /app/outage map. And if you go to the outage map, it shows kind of all the outages in the province in British Columbia. If I zoom in, it uses clusters. So if I get closer and closer, the clusters kind of break up, and you can see the independent kind of outages. So if I zoom in down here in the lower mainland, there's, you can see that the clusters break up into a bunch of different outages. If I go to one, it kind of actually highlights a specific area where that outage is. Anyway, so it just kind of shows you some information down here. If you scroll down, it tells you like where it is, what the status or what the cause is, how many customers are affected, when it was off, what the crew status is. So like if they've got people sent out to the job, all these kind of things. And most of this data is published publicly to an RSS feed. So if I click over here on the right, it says RSS outage feeds. So if I click here, it kind of gives a bunch of RSS links to the data. So here's like all of the outages in the province, and then it kind of breaks the province up into different regions. So if I click on, all BC Hydro territory data, here is the RSS feed. So here's one of the outage items, here's another outage item, and those are the details for all of the outages. So at first glance, you're probably thinking, wow, that looks easy. I could just, literally grab the data, maybe cache it into an Android app and, make the app. But there's a lot more to it than that. And actually the RSS feed doesn't publish everything that you need to make like a great app. Like if, as you saw on the website there, for example, it gives you that map and it kind of like highlights a region and it shows the outage and all that kind of stuff. Well, the map information is not published publicly on the RSS feed. So that's going to be a little bit trickier to get. And I'm going to tell you how I actually scraped that data from their website and I inserted it into Firestore, but I'll tell you about that later. The other kind of tricky thing about this is the RSS feed updates every 15 minutes with new data. So if an outage is resolved, it's essentially removed from that list. And if a new outage comes up, it gets added to that list. So you need a mechanism in the app that will update the data every 15 minutes, basically. So you could think of something like a service. If you have like a service running in the app, every 15 minutes, update the data and then update the app. So now I think you probably get an idea of like what I want to build, where the data is coming from. Now I want to talk about how I'm going to get this data, massage this data into something that is more usable to me in the Android world, and then how I'm going to be structuring like the architecture of the app and all those kind of things. So I'm going to be talking about Cloud Functions, because I use Cloud Functions to retrieve the data from the RSS feed, insert it into Firestore. I'm going to be talking about scraping data from their website. So like I said, I had to scrape data to retrieve the geopoints, the Google Maps geopoints for the outage areas. So like you saw those like highlighted regions on the map. So I had to scrape that data. And then I'll talk about the architecture of the app, kind of how I'm building this app, how I'm building essentially a real-time app so that no matter what fragment the user is in, the outages will always show the most updated information, and whatever else I can think of. So let's talk about it. So first, I'm actually going to show you the app that I have built right now. It's not complete by any means. It's just like generally so you can get a feeling of what this thing's going to look like. There's probably going to be two screens, a home screen and a settings screen. If I click on settings, it doesn't do anything right now. There's nothing here. It's just a placeholder. So right away when the app opens, it just kind of it shows those regions that I was talking about. So right now there's only not that many outages. It's not showing all of the regions, but if there was more, this list would be larger. So if I click on one of those, it then shows all the municipalities of inside of that region, and it shows their respective outages. And there's also a favorites feature that I'm going to implement. So you can see there's a heart option over here. So if I heart this, what I plan on having is on the home screen here is there'll be like a favorite section down here for selecting like your favorite municipalities, because like if I live in Abbotsford. Abbotsford's not on here because there's no outages, but say I lived in Vancouver, if I wanted to show like always outages for Vancouver because I live there, obviously I'd want to favorite it, and then that would show on my home screen so I could see outages in my hometown as soon as the app opens, basically. All right, so let's click on this. So this fragment is the region selection. So if this is a region selection. Now I can click on a municipality, and then within that municipality, it shows the individual outages. Again, this is going to change. I think what I'm going to have, I'm actually going to get rid of this fragment altogether and just have like when they click on this, it's going to open up a map. But for now, this just shows the municipalities. So then if I click on an individual outage, it actually opens up a Google map, and I can zoom out and it actually shows all of the outages. So no matter what, it plots all the outages in the province. So if I zoom out, you'll see that all of the outages are actually on this map. But what happens if I click on one like I did, it centers the camera on that particular outage. But if the user was to scroll out, they're still going to see, all of the outages and all of the little areas where the outages are occurring. So these things on the Google Maps, this is part of the Google Maps API. These things are called polygons. You can draw them using a bunch of coordinates and then essentially fill it in with a color. So this polygon data was definitely the trickiest thing about getting the data. Building the app is very simple compared to like getting the data how I need it and getting it into Firestore. That was by far the trickiest part. So building the app moving forward is going to be pretty straightforward. So how did I get these geopoints so that I can actually draw these on a Google map? Let me show you. So if we go back to the BC Hydro website, remember they had this map. Well, this data is not published publicly. Like I can't get these geopoints publicly. So what I did is I clicked on inspect on the page, and I went through maybe I can zoom this up for you to see better. There we go. That should be a little better. So what I did is I scrolled down. I went into the main container. I went into the main content, and this is going to take a second. I got to kind of find where everything is. I'm just kind of going in here, and eventually you'll find here we have this thing. This is the outages map right here. So this JavaScript is responsible for building this Google map. So if you expand this and I click on it and I copy it, so I'm just going to right click and go to copy element. Now I'm going to open this into a notepad file. So you can open it in Sublime Text, whatever text editor you want to use. And if I paste this in, and I'll save it as a JavaScript file just so it kind of looks better. So I'll just say, temp.js. Whoops, I already have a temp.js. Let's save it somewhere else. Temp.js, just so you can see it better. So inside of this big JavaScript file is all the information for all of the geopoints in that map. And you can kind of see them. I'll scroll up to the top so you can kind of see them begin. So this first part is just this is all just setup stuff. Well, here now is where they start building those polygons. So here you can see they create a marker, and then they create the first polygon. And the first polygon, maybe I can zoom. I can't zoom this in. Oh yeah, there we go. Zoom this in. So the first polygon here contains a whole bunch of coordinates. So here's the first coordinate, here's the second coordinate. And if I scroll all the way to the right, you can see there's probably 50 coordinates or something like that. And those coordinates are what make up these polygons. So if I zoom way in, there you see those polygons. These things are made up of, like 50 coordinates, and then the Google map knows where to draw them on the map. So if I go back to this, essentially what I needed to do was I need to extract all these coordinates, save them into Firestore so that I can then get them into the Android app and draw onto a Google map. So how did I do that? Well, let's go to Google Cloud. So what I did was I built a cloud function. I'm going to go to the Google Cloud console here. I built a cloud function that runs every 15 minutes because that's the rate that the data is updated on the website. So if I go up here and I go to cloud functions, I created a cloud function. This is it right here. Extract RSS data from BC Hydro. So it does a lot more things than just extract RSS data. It also, like I said, it scrapes the website. So it goes to this page right here. It looks for this data and it scrapes out the GPS coordinates and then inserts them into Firestore. So I'm not going to go through the details of this function. Obviously, I could pull it up on the screen here, I guess, for you just to see, but you're not going to understand it. So it's this one right here. So this is a huge cloud function here, but essentially that's what it does. First it gets the data from the RSS feed, which is this right here. And then after it's done getting the data from the RSS feed, it goes and it gets these GPS coordinates from the website and inserts them into Firestore. So let me go to Firestore and I'll show you what that data looks like after the cloud function extracts it from the website. So let's go over to the database, go into Firestore, and we have a couple nodes here. Outage tokens. This is for Firebase Cloud Messaging, which I'll talk about later. But we have outages and restored outages. I'm probably not going to use restored outages. So I know I didn't say this earlier, but they also publish restored outages. So if you go down here and if you look at these GUIDs, notice that none of them have null in them. But if you go down to the bottom, they start saying null. So from this point on, all of them have null in them. The null ones are the ones that are restored outages. So I might use that data, I might not, I'm not decided yet. Anyway, so I have the outages and here they are. These are all of the outages currently active right now, and it has all the data here. So like area affected, the cause, the crew status, customers affected, estimated time on, and then here are all of those geo points that were so difficult to get. So this is essentially one of those polygons that's used for drawing on the Google map. And then the rest of the data, the GUID, last updated, region, the status, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So like I said, now once you have those geo points, then it's easy to draw the Google map because I know everything I need to know about that outage, and I can draw these things using the Google Map API. So yeah, I think in general, having an app is going to be a lot more useful. Obviously, like the app that I showed you is not anywhere near complete. I'm going to make it, show notifications so that you can like sign up for a municipality area. Then if there's an outage, like you'll get a notification. You can favorite, areas. Obviously, clean up the material design a lot because it looks pretty ugly. Lots of work to do still for sure. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the architecture. So how am I building this? And I thought a lot about this because it's almost like you need it to be like a real-time app because it only updates every 15 minutes, but still, like if a user is sitting here, has the app open, they're looking at the map and that outage information changes, they need to see that changes immediately. Like imagine I'm looking at this outage right here and then that outage is resolved, but I'm still looking at it. The user would want to see that like that disappear on the map so that it's no longer there. Likewise, if you were in like a different fragment, like you were in this one showing the or the different outages in the municipality, or maybe a list of the municipalities, if suddenly an outage was resolved, you would expect to see that removed from the list immediately. So how do you build this so that if a user has the app open, that data is going to get updated immediately no matter what fragment they're in? Now, I know this is going to be a terrible idea, but I'm going to show you my notebook and kind of talk through about how I'm structuring this. I'm sure some of you are going to hate this because it's going to look stupid, but anyway, I'm going to do it. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I built a singleton object, so that's going to exist for as long as the application is alive, and that's going to sit at the very top of the architecture. That is going to be called an Outage Manager. Now, the Outage Manager is going to have live data in it. It's going to have a list of all of the current outages in the entire province. So right away when the app starts, what it's going to do is it's going to go hit the network, get the updated outages, cache those outages into Room, and then the outage manager is going to display the data that's inside of Room. And that sits at the top level. Remember, it's a singleton object that's going to live as long as the application is alive. So then all of the other fragments, no matter what fragment you're in, whether you're in like the home screen, whether you're in the fragment that shows the municipalities, the fragment that shows the outages within a municipality, whether you're looking at the map, it doesn't matter. All of those fragments are going to get their data from the outage manager. So so what's going to happen is I also programmed into the cloud function is once the cloud function is done getting the data, it's going to send out a Firebase cloud message to all of the apps that have the app open. So essentially, I've created a service that is going to be running a Firebase messaging service that's going to be running as soon as the app starts till the app dies. And it's always running and it's listening for cloud messages. So once the cloud function is done getting the data from the RSS feed, done scraping the data from the website, it sends out a cloud function to all of the apps and says, hey, we just finished updating the data. Make sure that you update the data. So that then they'll receive that message. It'll make a network request to Firestore, and the outage manager will get refreshed. Since the outage manager holds all of the data for all of the fragments, boom, all of the fragments will also get refreshed because they are observing the outage manager, which is that top level construct. That probably sounded confusing, but it's actually pretty simple. Basically, I have a cloud scheduler on Google Cloud Console that runs every 15 minutes to update the data. All that does is it tells the cloud function to run. The cloud function gets the RSS data. It scrapes the data from the website. It inserts all of that data into Firestore so that it's nice and I can get it into the Android app. Once that's done, it sends out a Firebase cloud message to all of the apps. The apps will receive that message and say, oh, looks like I need to update. It will then tell the outage manager, which is that top level singleton object, hey, go update your data. It'll do it, and then all of the fragments see the updated data. So yeah, that's it. That's what I'm working on. You know, again, I don't expect this to be like I don't expect to make money on this app or anything like that. I think it's just like it's a good little project that I think will help a lot of people. It solves a problem, makes it way more convenient to look up power outages. You know, you can get notifications, whatever. Best case scenario is like BC Hydro decides to buy the app from me, which I don't know if they'll do that. I'm not trying to get them to do that. At the end of the day, at the most, I'll probably spend like 2 to 3 weeks building this app and maybe a couple hours a month maintaining it. So it's not really like a big deal to me. And I get the practice of like putting something in production, beta testing something, listening to customer feedback. Basically, analytics. I get, experience with analytics and see like just how the app is running, what people think of it, where people spend the time, just like all those kind of things. It's really just practice, basically. And if I feel like it, maybe I'll find somebody to build an iOS version. I have a friend in mind who lives in BC. He just moved here, I don't know, maybe a year ago. Shout out to Simran. I already asked you about it, so I haven't checked my messages, so you might have replied to me already. But if you wanted to build like an iOS version, it would be relatively straightforward. I have all the data. That was the hardest part. You just would have to throw together the app. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my idea, what you think of my app. Let me know if you want to learn about any of the things that I talked about, whether it's, that top level architecture that I talked about with the singleton that gets the data and all of the fragments observe it, whether it's the cloud functions, whether it's the cloud scheduler that executes the cloud function every 15 minutes, how I scrape the data from the website, how I read the RSS feed, any of these things. Let me know down below if you would like to see like a course on any of these things, because I think any of those things could easily make a course up on their own. I'm definitely not going to be making a course on this entire app because there's really a lot to it. It would I don't know. It'd probably be like a 10-hour course or something like that, but I don't know. Anyway, leave comments below. Leave a like if you liked the video. Don't forget to go to CodingWithMitch.com if you want to see, learn about any of the things that I talked about, or some of the things that I talked about anyway, excluding cloud functions. Anyway, go to CodingWithMitch.com and check out my stuff. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.